This video is entitled Dictionary or a Key Valued Collection and is a supplemental piece to the book An Introduction to STEM Programming with Python 3, Chapter 4. I'm Dr. James Renault, PhD, or Dr. Renault from Shawnee State University, and I'll be taking you through this video presentation. In this video, I'm going to cover the concept of key value storage. I'm going to show you the syntax for creating a dictionary, an empty one and one with values in Python. I'm going to talk about how to get values and set values in a dictionary, or how to add values to your dictionary. And then I'm going to show the get method, which will work in special cases. So let's kind of start with the concept of key value storage. We've looked at lists and we've looked at tuples where we use a numeric index to get and receive values, or you've seen arrays in other languages. But with a key value storage, we use a string or some other value to associate another value to it. Lots of different languages do it different ways. PHP does it one way, and C++ does it another way using something called a map. But in Python, it's called a dictionary. Stop and think about a case here where we've got a part number or a part ID that can contain strings, letters, numbers, and all kinds of symbols. And then we've got a description that goes along with that part ID. Wouldn't that be nice to have them together in a structure? So if you knew the part ID, you could get the description. If you knew the key, you could get the value. So here in my example, I'm using part A34 has a description of half-inch reverse. Actually, it says half-foot reverse thread nut. So that'd be a huge nut, but that's okay. In Python, we use the curly brace, the curly Q brace, the mustache brace to create a dictionary, and we can use an empty set of empty braces to define an empty dictionary. Or inside the empty braces, we can put the key :value, comma, key :value, comma, and we use the colon between the key and the value when we're defining a dictionary in a set of curly braces. Let's look at some examples. Here in this example, I've created two dictionaries, a dictionary called A that's an empty dictionary, and I've created a dictionary called B that contains those two parts, part A34 and part B101, with their associated description. Key would be part ID, the description would be the value. So you can see then we can just print the dictionary and it shows it in its curly brace notation. So creating a dictionary is great, but we'll want to manipulate the dictionary, add values to it, extract values from it, or change the value associated to a key at times. We use the indexing operator, the square brackets that we use when we're dealing with a list or a tuple to extract values. You use it just the same, but instead of using an index number, you use the key. So using the square bracket notation of the indexing operator, you can get the value if you know the key. You can change the value by assigning that if you know the key, or if you just assign a key that doesn't exist, it'll automatically create the key and add it to the dictionary. So you don't have to create it first. You can just assign the key a value and it'll just add it to the dictionary. Let's look at an example. So on line 1, I create a dictionary called scale. And on line 2, I create a dictionary called B and assign it a whole bunch of values. On line 4, we can see by saying B bracket quote, B101 quote, that goes and says, well, the key is B101, go find it and return the value, and it printed blue wire nut for me. So worked like a charm. You can then see on lines 6 through 10, I assign scale A. Well, scale A doesn't exist, but that's okay. It just created it for me. So this is kind of a grading scale for a class I might be teaching that says 90 and up would be an A. 80 and up would be a B, 70 and up would be a C, 60 and up would be a D, and 0 and up would be an F. That kind of makes sense. So I've created the scale just by assigning them, or if I wanted to reassign, I could. And if I print scale after assigning the individual values, you can see that it created it for me. Now, it won't store it in the order you create it. It will store it in order by the key. So a dictionary may shuffle itself, but it'll shuffle itself in order by the key order, not in the order you created it, even though in the example above, it happens to be in the same order as I created it. Now, if you try to extract a value from a dictionary using the indexing operators and the key doesn't exist, you will get an error. It will throw an error and your program will stop operating unless you use a try-catch, and we'll see that in a future video. The way to get around that is to use the get method of the dictionary. So if we say a.get parenthesis and give it two values, the first value would be the key to go find, and the second value is the value to return if the key doesn't exist. So if the key doesn't exist, return the second value or return the value that's in the dictionary. So the get method is a way to grab values out of a dictionary, and if it doesn't exist, it doesn't blow your program up. On lines 1 through 6, I create the same scale dictionary. And on line 9, you can see that I try to go get the value D, the value for D out of the scale dictionary, and D exists, and it returned 0.06 or 0.60, just like I wanted it to in the print. But notice on line 10, I say, well, give me the E value. There is no E value. E wasn't created in the dictionary, so it returned 4 nines. And you can see when I get E, it returned 4 nines because E didn't exist. So use the second value in the get function, in the get method. This concludes our brief introduction to dictionaries in Python. This presentation is copyright 2020, not 2019 as it says up there, by James M. Renault, PhD. Me. You can contact me at jrenault@shawnee.edu if you have any questions. Remember, this work is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, non-commercial share alike 4.0 international license, and I'd like to say thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in future videos.